Well, we've got a question that comes up sometimes of should you plant your palm in winter? Uh, as we're looking here at a couple of our fortunei, we got our waggy palm here. And this question comes up quite a bit. And in general, you should always plant in spring, and we're going to give you a couple reasons, especially on the fortunei, of why it's a bad idea to plant in winter. On the fortunei especially, had some noise there. The fortunei, when you first plant them, are going to be not growing very well, so the spear area is going to be very susceptible to cold and damage. So you're going to have this spear area here that's not growing well, and as it if you get some cold and ice and have this area freeze, and you have a palm that's not rooted in well and not growing, then this whole area is very likely to rot in the spring on you if you're in an area that's very borderline for these palms, and you get down to, let's say, 10 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. And so this area is not going to be growing well. It's not going to grow out of that damage, and your palm is much more likely to die under those circumstances, instead of if you plant it in the spring and have it more time for the roots to establish and grow. And so under cases like that, especially with windmill palms, you definitely do not want to plant them in the winter time. Now, if you're in an area where you're not going to get below mid to low 20s, maybe at worst, then maybe you can think about going ahead and planting these palms in the fall, but it's still just not a good idea. It's best to wait until the spring. Now you've got another type of palm. You've got all your Sabal palms, and we'll talk about those. Now, if you have something like a little Sabal palm, they're a little different because their spear area, their growing point, is below ground, and so you can get away with planting them in the fall or winter if you're in an area where, especially where it doesn't get down real cold, especially if you're in that zone 8 or higher. But it's still generally advised to wait to plant these, because they're not going to be doing any growing in the winter and in the cold temperatures. If the ground's below 65 degrees, let's say, they're not going to be putting out any growth, and so you're just there again, you're risking some severe weather hurting them or something like that, or snow or ice doing some damage to the frond. So it's still generally not a good idea to plant them, but these palms will get away with not having the cold damage as bad. Now, if you have something like this little needle palm here, then you're probably going to want again to wait till spring to plant this, because this has kind of the same problem as the windmill palms. It has a little trunk usually, and these spears coming out of here are very susceptible, especially when they're growing slow, to ice and cold damage. So if you're in a colder zone, 6 through even an 8 probably on this one, if you get some ice damage in here, these can spear pull real easy, even in temperatures under 21 Fahrenheit or so, in the cold, wet. And even though this palm, the fronds are hardy to probably below 0 Fahrenheit, the spears can pull, and you can lose the whole little trunk, or whatever you want to call it there. And sometimes these will regrow, and sometimes you'll lose the whole trunk. So it's especially true if you have one not established. So you really don't want to plant these in the fall or winter, it's a really bad idea. And so these, there again, need to get pretty big to be really tough. And so a needle palm may have to establish for 2 or 3 years. You want to get it up at least 2, 3, 4 foot tall. This is probably just now starting to be tougher. It's got the adult fronds here that are coming out. If you don't have the adult fronds, you for sure are not big enough to be fully cold hardy. And but anyway, that's my rant on the needle palms, is be careful with them over winter in the wet cold, and don't plant them in fall or winter unless you're in some zone where it's not going to get below 21 degrees Fahrenheit.